Money for the big topic, and we're going to show you how you can continue your financial education journey when we go off air after this episode. It's 4 p.m, we're live, and this is the Moneycast by MyBank. Hello and welcome to episode 10. 10 episodes, 10 weeks of the Moneycast by MyBank. My name is Nick Smith Patel. I'm the head of education for young adults for MyBank, and I'm your host for the show this week and for the last 10 weeks as well. If you haven't already noticed, you can watch us at all our social media channels that are currently scrolling along the bottom of the screen. We are available on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Twitch. And feel free to leave us a comment, like, subscribe, whatever it is you do on any of those channels. But if you want to ask a question now, you can also put that in the chat. My friend Declan is in the chat looking after us today with links and other information you might need. So if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. If you do have something you want to tell us and you'd rather do it off stream, you can always email us at info@mybank.org. We are looking for any suggestions for season 2. We're looking for people who might want to be involved. If you want to be a speaker, if you want to share your story, please send us an email, info@mybank.org, and we'll do our best to make that happen. Anyway, let's get into it. Heads up time. So let's start with the first story, and I think I'm most excited about this story personally. This one is about the reopening of things like theme parks and zoos and attractions, and the biggest attraction company in the UK, Merlin Entertainment, who have parks all over the world, all over the country. They're the guys who run things like Chessington, Thorpe Park, Alton Towers, the Sea Life Centres as well. They are about to reopen, and it's a very different world now. So I found this video that they put out to explain, if you are thinking about going to a theme park this weekend, because that's when they're open, what you might be faced with under the new coronavirus regulations.
We're looking forward to welcoming you back to our attractions.
And our number one priority is to protect the health, safety and security of our guests and our employees.
We are always committed to achieving the highest safety standards.
And that is why we've put in place new safety measures to ensure that you have a magical and memorable experience at our attractions. They include
pre-booking your tickets online. We'll have lower capacity in our hotels and attractions.
This may also include timed tickets for some of our smaller indoor attractions. So always book before you come visit us.
We'll have a number of our rides, activities and experiences available straight away. However, some might not be suitable for opening just yet.
So please check with individual attractions websites for more details.
On arrival, you may see us conducting temperature checks on both our employees and our guests as a precaution.
You'll see a number of our staff wearing protective clothing or hygiene screens on counters. You'll see the continuation of our enhanced cleaning and additional hygiene stations with hand sanitizer at key locations, so you can wash your hands.
Please follow the one-way zones. We have safe places for you to stand with the best views.
You'll see social distancing measures, including spatial separation markings, in our queues, restaurants and other experiences.
And also social spacing on our rides.
You'll see a change in the way we do some everyday tasks.
Please don't touch our figures.
And maintain your social distance.
Be ready to make on-site payments using a contactless bank card rather than cash where possible.
Some of our theatre-style areas, such as actor-led experiences, 4D cinemas or meet and greet entertainment, may have limited numbers or continue to be closed.
We also want you to have a great time, so please only visit when you and the rest of your party all feel well and are symptom-free.
These Merlin safety measures have been put in place to make sure you have a magical and memorable experience at our attractions, because we're helping to bring the magic back.
That's a lot of different things you're going to have to do if you want to visit a theme park this weekend. Personally, not sure I'm going to be rushing out the door to go and ride a roller coaster, but let us know in the chat. Are you happy to deal with those kind of conditions in order to get out of the house and go and do something? Or are you going to wait off a little bit and wait for things to calm down? Let us know. Next up, you may remember a few weeks ago, I managed to get my question picked for one of the questions that was asked on the daily briefings. And I asked the question about what the government is planning to do to support young people when the lockdown ends and coronavirus has caused all its financial devastation. We didn't get an answer then. Matt Hancock, who was the speaker at the time, said that they would be announcing something soon. Well, a few days ago, Boris Johnson gave a speech about his £5 billion plan to boost and reboot the economy after COVID-19. And he did mention young people. So I figure this is the answer we've been waiting for.
And with every home we make, every mile of full fibre broadband that we lay, every flood-defending culvert that we dig, with every railway station, hospital or school that we build, we will of course be tackling the next wave of this crisis by helping to create thousands of high-paid, high-skilled jobs. Because we know in our hearts that the furloughing cannot go on forever. And as the economy recovers, we also know that jobs that many people had in January are also not coming back, or at least not in that form. And we know that that's the biggest and most immediate economic challenge that we face. And so we will also offer an opportunity guarantee so that every young person has the chance of an apprenticeship or an in-work placement so that they maintain the skills and confidence they need to find the job that is right for them.
An opportunity guarantee, so an apprenticeship or a job placement to make sure that you guys keep your skills up. Let's see how that pans out in the future. There obviously wasn't very many details in that speech, but let's see what happens in the future. And at least, like Declan said, we got an answer. Took a while, but we got an answer, so that's always good. Finally, you know I like to end these things with something you can do for free, and it's getting harder and harder to find free stuff. The coronavirus generosity is slowly starting to drain away from most companies, but found something that my wife and I tried a few months ago before the coronavirus happened, and it just popped in my head. Free walking tours. If you haven't really explored the city you live in, this might be a way to do it, and it doesn't necessarily have to cost you a penny, although you can pay what you want. This website is called freetour.com, and the idea here is that you can type in a city and it shows you all the free tours that might be available around you. They're also doing online tours at the moment, as you can see, but the range of tours is huge. We did ours in Barcelona, so that was really good fun, and we just tipped the tour guide at the end. So I had a quick search. In London, for example, there's a few here, so all of these were rated for free. You just tip the guide at the end how much you feel the tour has been worth. Ranging in time as well, I saw some here from an hour and a half, but there's some as long as 6 hours long. Massive tours of London. Tours themed around Harry Potter, tours themed around Jack the Ripper, tours themed around graffiti and art. It's wonderful. But it's not just London. For example, here's one in Liverpool, touring around all the sites that are important to the Beatles, if that's your kind of thing. Again, doesn't cost you a penny. All you need to do really at the end is tip the guide how much you feel service was worth. So if you fancy a free tour of somewhere you've lived all your life but never really explored, maybe give it a go. So what do you reckon? Theme parks this week? Job opportunity? You feeling confident about that? And would you go on a free walking tour? Let us know in the chat or in the email. But for now, let's move into the big topic, and we're revisiting episode 1. We are doing Coronanomics part 2. So we're going to do some updates on some of the things that might have shifted a little bit and changed since our first episode 10 weeks ago. Lots of things have happened in the last 70 days. So let's start with an update just on the subjects that we talked about last time. First of all, let's talk about benefits and working. So the furlough scheme will change and has changed from today, actually. From yesterday, to allow people to come back to work part-time. So if you haven't heard from your employer, one thing to say here is maybe give them a call and see where you stand. It might be that you're able to return to work on a part-time basis now because it's a bit more flexible. The other thing about this is that this is the time where we're worried that people might start to see redundancies because the government's amount of support is going to start to reduce from here on in. So do keep in contact with your employer if you're not sure. And if you are made redundant, make sure you know your rights about that. If you've worked with someone for a certain amount of time, you are entitled to redundancy pay. do make sure you're in contact with your employer because things are changing. So make sure you know where you stand. In terms of benefits, at one point they froze benefit repayment claims. So if you had a loan from the benefit office and you were paying back, they paused all those payments. Those payments are now being collected again. So if you do have a budgeting loan or a crisis loan, that kind of thing, just be aware that they're going to start to take those payments from you now because they figured enough time has passed. If you remember, they also increased the payments for benefits for £1,000 for the year. Now, there's no word about whether that's going to just stop after the year is over, so I would assume that it does. So make sure that if you have got that extra cash coming in and you're not needing to use it, if you're able to stick it somewhere safe for a savings account, great. Otherwise, make sure that you are thinking about what happens when the money goes back to normal amounts, because it is about £1,000 extra every year. That may not continue after sort of 6 months' time. So something to think about for future planning, just to make sure you don't get caught unawares. Next up, let's talk about housing. So all court action for evictions is hold until at least the 23rd of August. So bailiffs can't evict you, landlords can't get an eviction order. But if you live with your landlord, the rules are different. You're entitled to stay until the end of your agreement or reasonable notice. It's that word reasonable again, if you remember from consumer rights. Reasonable means different things to different people. So it's hard to say what that actually means with any certainty. One thing I will say, though, is that you are protected for a certain amount of time, but there will come a time where you need to start paying back the arrears that you may have built up by having payment freezes or by not having income, that kind of stuff. I went online to have a look, and Shelter has a really good video about what to do if you end up being evicted because of rent arrears. So although you can't be evicted now until August, here's a quick video just to show you what you could do and should do if you find yourself in that position later down the line.
You've been evicted for rent arrears. It's a really difficult experience. And what can be just as hard is finding somewhere to live afterwards. Landlords will require references, good credit scores, and rent in advance. But you don't have these, and you still need somewhere to live. So what can you do? 4 things you can do to find a home after an eviction for rent arrears. Find a friend to rent from. Renting from a friend or a relative is a good way of building up your rent payment history, and when it's time to move on, they can give you a good reference. Pay your rent directly from your bank account and not in cash, so it shows up as regular payments from your bank statement. Always check that benefits can help with housing costs if you rent from family or friends. It has to be a real tenancy, so your friend or relative should draw up a tenancy agreement and should arrange for a gas safety check of your home. You can't get help with housing costs if you are renting a room in a close family member's home. Get a guarantor. If you can't rent from a friend or relative, see if they can act as guarantor. A guarantor agrees to cover your rent when you can't and can reassure your landlord that they will cover the rent if it's not paid. Get help from the council. Your local council is legally obliged to help you find a home if you're homeless. This can include giving you advice and helping you with the costs of a deposit or rent in advance. Get free money advice. There are charities that give free debt and money advice, so use them. Citizens Advice, Step Change, and National Debt Line can help you put together a budget or help you prioritise your debts.
So you may have recognised some of those websites from previous shows that we've done. Just a couple of things on that. Guarantors, we know not everyone can have a guarantor. You might not be in a position to have anyone to sign that for you. I am a guarantor, actually. I'm a guarantor to my brother Alex, who's studying at the moment, and one of the conditions of his student housing was he had a guarantor. So I've signed that. So Alex, if you're watching this, pay your rent, or call me, let me know you're having trouble. But the serious point of this is that if you can't get a guarantor and that's not an option for you, then you heard them say at the end, go speak to the council and get some money advice. There are organisations that are built just to help here, so use them. You know, if they're there, sitting behind a desk or behind a phone, may as well help them kill some time and help them help you, right? The next thing I want to talk about is holidays and trips. So things are really starting to move with holidays. Things are starting to reopen, and you're hearing lots of things about air bridges and agreements with different countries, and we might be able to fly in the next few weeks. I will just say this. There is no certainty at the moment about what the guidance will be or which countries, no matter which newspaper or which website you read. No one really knows until the government absolutely says this is the case. So do be careful about booking future trips, and don't assume that if you book a trip now that you'll automatically be able to cancel it if you fancy down the line that, it's too much of a risk. The reality is that if the government turns around and says that you're allowed to fly and you have a holiday booked, if you just don't want to go anymore because you're nervous about coronavirus or you're just not in the mood, you're not entitled to refunds normally. And most insurance companies are currently not insuring anyone for if you get sick with coronavirus being a reason to end your holiday. So there are a lot of risks about booking something now. If you've already booked before coronavirus happened, as in my case, I booked way before this happened, and then my holiday was moved, I've been assured that I'm covered with my travel agency, but my insurance cover has changed. So if I can't go because the flight doesn't work, it's fine, I get my money from my insurance company. If I can't fly because the weather stops the flight from going, I think I still get something back. If my baggage goes missing, if I get sick for anything other than coronavirus, I'm fine. But if I catch coronavirus and that stops me going on holiday, my insurance company is very clear with me. We're not paying. So make sure you understand the terms and conditions of everything you read or sign, especially if it's insurance, because there's lots of legal stuff you need to understand. But don't rush just yet. I would say give it at least another couple of weeks to see what the government says about travel. And bear in mind, it's going to be a very different experience. You saw the video from Merlin about how theme parks in the UK are going to have to adapt to make sure that everyone's COVID secure, is the term we're using. So, A, is it something you want to pay money for in terms of a reduced experience potentially? And B, are you protected if something goes wrong? Make sure you check those two things. Really, really important. Linked to holidays and trips, we're talking about events and gigs. No real change here, actually. The rules are still the same. If they cancelled and you have no say in that cancellation, then you're entitled to some money back. I was due to be at the Hella Mega Tour with Green Day and Fall Out Boy and another band, I can't remember now. Weezer, it was Weezer. And it was cancelled. So my wife basically got an email through saying, fine, we'll just give you tickets to the next event. But if you want to cancel, here's the link. So you should be offered a refund, and good companies are offering that without you having to fight for it. If you do need to fight for it, it is your right to refund. So make sure you get it. Older people in the audience might get that joke. But the other thing is that things are changing. So I love escape rooms. There are now companies that are selling experiences where you get a box full of tech and you run around London outdoors doing very similar things to an escape room. The Crystal Maze has just reopened with smaller groups, so you don't have to share for social distancing. One thing I thought was really interesting was the rise of drive-in concerts, and actually Utilita, who are an energy company, are putting on a batch of different gigs. Dizzy Rascal, Sigala, The Streets, Six the Musical is being staged. I'll show you this. This is how they're proposing these drive-through concerts will work. Have a look. I mean, it's all very strange, isn't it? You drive into a little square, you have a little box for yourself, and that's how you're going to be for the whole concert. But it works, I guess. So things are changing, and we might have to adapt to a new way of doing things and a new way of thinking about going out. But the rules and the regulations around your refunds, they haven't changed. So you can go back and watch our old episode and get all the rights from there just the same way. Next up, or last up, I want to talk quickly about debt and borrowing. So credit cards and loan payment freezes have extended to the end of October. So if you need to request a 3-month £500 overdraft, for example, from your bank, or an interest freeze on your credit card, you can do that as long as you apply before the end of October. Again, think about whether you need that freeze or not. If you can get away with keep paying it, if you've got enough income to keep that payment going and to keep your debt reducing, that's always going to be better for you in the long run. Anything you don't pay now, they're going to expect to be paid later. So don't assume that these payment holidays are cancellations of fee. They are just moving them from now to later. So something you should really be planning out. That extension doesn't apply to things like payday loans, that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out. There is some stuff the FCA is working hard to try and make sure that there's some protection for those kind of people. But the big golden thing, if you haven't already applied for that freeze, have until October to do that. Some useful websites for you to look at this week. The Mix, we'll come back to them in just a second, but you may remember that we did this article with them initially. So The Mix is a great resource for just information on money and everything else, actually. Citizen advice for the kind of legal stuff you need to know. Shelter, as we showed you from the video, has some great resources. Step Change, if you're having debt issues, you can go to them and go and check out what's going on. Then we've got Money Saving Expert, just for great tips about how to keep the costs down. If there's any kind of things around flights, events, they have some great information about consumer rights. And finally, the Money Advice Service, just because they have great advice on the website. Also, you may remember, we have 9 previous episodes. All of these episodes are still available on YouTube. If you want to go back and brush up on any of these topics, feel free to go back and look at the playlist. And if you have any comments, leave them in the comments on the YouTube page, and we'll use those to fuel season 2. We really want to make sure we bring people's voices into season 2 if we can. So that's going to wrap it up for Coronavirus 2.0. And actually, for the most part, that's going to wrap up the episode. I've got one more thing I'd like to share with you, and that's how you can carry on doing more learning about financial education while we take a little break. So, first and foremost, there's The Mix. Now, we have worked hard with The Mix to get this Money Hub up and running, and provided articles and all sorts of things to make this really useful for young people. We've also developed a couple of tools. This is the triage tool. You can type into this and it will kind of ask you some questions and work out what it is you need in terms of help and offer some guidance that kind of way. There's expert authored articles. We've got a money management course on there, a version of MoneyWorks. All of that stuff is free as well. So you can find that at themix.org.uk/money. Worked really hard with these guys to get this up and running. So please check it out. And like I say, we have an entire course on there that you can do if you just want to crack on and do some self-learning. It's called MoneyWorks, and it's a light version of one of our other courses. But we have got a couple of other things. So first of all, let's talk about if you're 16 to 25. What have we got for you? Well, first of all, we have the Money House. The Money House is our long program. We normally run this over 5 days, if this was real, like in kind of face-to-face. And these are all the topics that we cover. So you can see it covers quite a lot. We've actually modified this to work online, and we are now running Money House courses via Zoom. So this is Wayne, one of my trainers, just doing a kind of warm up with the group to work out what would you spend your money on if you had £1 million. And we like to use real websites to explain things, kind of like we do here on the Moneycast. So Top A here explaining how you can get cheaper phone contracts online if you just do a bit of searching. So if you are interested in the Money House, there are some caveats here. You must be a London Borough resident of Greenwich, Lewisham, Newham, Tower Hamlets, Westminster, or Haringey. If you are outside of those boroughs or not in London, sit tight, I've got you. But for now, if you want any more information about the Money House for people of those boroughs, email us at themoneyhouse@mybank.org. Not much of a waiting list, but there is some. So the quicker you get hold of us, the quicker we can get you through. If you're not in London, or if you're outside of those home boroughs, there is always MoneyWorks. You've seen some of these materials last week, actually. MoneyWorks is our shorter 8-hour program, which we have basically moved straight online. So we cover these topics on MoneyWorks: budgeting and household costs, your income, banking and being informed, avoiding scams. And this is Gemma, our trainer who's based up in Scotland, delivering the course. You may remember this video. We showed this, I think, last week or the week before, about how to get medicine cheaper. We also do things like take interactive elements like being able to write on a whiteboard through Zoom and talk about budgeting as well. So if you are interested in MoneyWorks, talk to your support worker, talk to your key workers, tell them you want to do this, get them to get a hold of us. If you are a support worker watching this or an adult who works with young people, drop us a line at info@mybank.org and we'll definitely see what we can do for you. So that's the suite of stuff you can do for 16 to 25-year-olds. Obviously, go back and watch our old Moneycast and brush up on all the stuff we've taught you there. But we've also got a whole load of stuff for the younger ages. Let's start with ages 5 to 7. We have a program called Family Money Twist. This is a program designed for 5 to 7-year-olds, so Key Stage 1 in the England kind of school system. It's a free online homeschool financial education program, and it's designed to be led by families or teachers, and it's funded by Kickstart Money. So it covers things like where money comes from, the practical value and cost of everyday things, basics of needs and wants, so understanding what that means and making choices, keeping track of money, and why saving is important. If you're slightly older, or you've got children that are slightly older, we have a version of this for 7 to 11-year-olds as well. This is Andy leading this one. And we cover slightly different topics. We move it up a little bit. So we go to needs and wants and understanding common needs and wants around the home. understanding budgeting and creating a budget for bedroom decoration, and understanding what saving and delayed gratification is. So if you have children aged anywhere between 5 and 11, there's a program for you here, Family Money Twist, and you can find that. I'll give you the details how to find that in just a second. One exciting program, which I'm going to let Andy introduce, is for 9 to 11-year-olds. We have a program called Family Money Buzz. Here's Andy to explain.
Hi, I'm Andy from MyBank, a UK financial education charity for young people. I'm here to talk to you about our new free online programme, Family Money Buzz Energy Detectives. It's for years 5 and 6, or P5 and 6 if you're in Scotland. It focuses on energy efficiency and uses literacy and critical thinking skills. Through videos and activities, 9 to 11-year-olds are led through a digital investigation with Detective Wes, in order to solve the case of expensive bills and uncover ways to cut costs. So, what's it all about? Family Money Buzz Energy Detectives covers recognition of costs, where energy comes from, and understanding that wasting it can be costly. How to reduce waste, looking at a number of practical ways to reduce common energy costs. Understanding consequences of use, in financial terms, but also how we impact the environment too. These activities can be introduced to children by parents or guardians, or incorporated into a teacher's adapted curriculum. Supported by UK power networks, it aims to reduce fuel poverty whilst improving financial capability. Get involved today for free by registering at learning.mybank.org. And please, share with your friends, family and professional networks too. Have fun.
So as you can see, we've got primary school age all wrapped up. Everything you need for 5 to 11, whether that's just generic money advice or looking at specifically how energy usage might affect your money. What about secondary schools? Well, for the 11 to 14-year-olds, we have Money Twist. Online Money Twist covers 2 different sessions. Interactive online financial education program, as always with MyBank. Session 1 looks at things like discovering what motivates people to spend money, the impact that advertising has, peer pressure has, and media have on our spending habits. And also shopping deals that you can find in places and whether they're really deals or not. Session 2, we start to look at how to differentiate wants and needs on our budget, the benefits of saving, and we start looking at things like the minimum wage, and you can see on screen here, all done via kind of interactive video pieces. So, if you want to get any information about any of those courses for the primary or secondary school age, you would sign up for all of those courses here at learning.mybank.org. And these initiatives are supported by Kickstart Money and UK Power Networks. Thank you so much to those guys for helping us make these things possible. Again, learning.mybank.org. Now, that's it. But we're done. Oh, tips. So let's go through my 3 top tips, and this is about coming out of the coronavirus essentially. So 3 top tips for you to think about while we're off air, and we're not going to be off air for very long, so don't worry, you won't miss us for too long. Tip number 1. If you have unmanageable debts, speak to the people you owe money to as soon as you can. Don't leave it for too long. And definitely if you need help, speak to someone like Step Change or another advice agency. Do make sure that you're speaking about problems you have. Don't hold it in silence. Number 2, if you're on furlough, talk to your boss as soon as you can, because things may change very, very soon. Just in terms of knowing where you stand. It's absolutely fine for you to phone up and ask the question. Absolutely fine. Last one for me is, as lockdown eases, remember all the tricks you learned, all the free stuff you used, all those things you could do without, all those things that you saved your money on, and try to still do them when lockdown finishes. Okay, the way that you've merged your mind at the moment in terms of saving cash, don't slip. If you've bought less takeaway, keep buying less takeaway. If you've gone without haircuts, go without haircuts, but try and keep as many of those money saving things you found going after lockdown. Don't make this just a corona habit. Make it a permanent one and save that cash permanently. Don't forget, these are the websites you might need if you need us. So the Mix, Citizen Advice, Shelter, Step Change, Money Saving Expert, and the Money Advice Service. You can pause this on YouTube if you need to get these later on. And you can always go back and watch all of our old shows. The playlist is in the chat. And that will round it up. So after 10 weeks, here we are, end of season 1. Now, we're going to be taking at least a couple of weeks off just to work out what we're going to do for season 2. We might have to spruce up some of these little graphics here. But we are definitely going to be coming back with one episode. We already know what episode 1 is going to be for season 2, and that is students. We are going to be looking at students, university students, and how all of this stuff might be affecting you and some of the choices you're going to have to make. And we're hoping to try and get a speaker on. Can't say any more than that at the moment. Bit hush-hush in the moment, but we're trying. So please make sure that you're signed up to all of our social media channels. These are the places you can find us. When we're live and we're back up and running, you'll see it on all of these channels. If you are a student and you've got some questions that you want us to tackle in that first episode, or you want to contribute in any way, shape, or form, you can email us at info@mybank.org. And I just want to take this moment to say, if you've been watching us for the last 10 weeks, if you're a support worker who showed this to young people, if you're a young person who's tuned in, even wants to watch this, thanks so much. It's really, really, really good to know that people are actually using this. We know that we've had a few thousand views, so we're quite happy that we're doing something that's really useful, and we really want to continue. So if you have any suggestions or you want to be involved, info@mybank.org. But yeah, going to wrap it up pretty much for this week and for the first series. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, I've been Nick Smith Patel. Declan's been in the chat helping out. We'll be back in a few weeks' time with season 2, starting with students and your money. But for now, this is Nick Smith Patel signing off, saying stay safe, take care, bye-bye.